Alright everyone, we start off today with a bit of a spicy video that I'm sure some people will disagree with me on, but bear me out, actually hear what I have to say before you judge the video as positive or negative, by the way. Don't just click like, listen to what I have to say and then click like. That's what I would prefer. Any nation in the world, in theory, can petition to join the United States of America. You might have luck if you tried to do an awareness campaign of this in the Philippines. It'd probably be a yay vote, by the way, considering the liberation from Spain thing, or the long and fast friends thing, liberation from the Japanese. It's happened a number of times throughout Filipino history, and would be kind of cool. The Philippines are pretty great. Great food. But I was thinking to myself, do you want peace in the Middle East? So an actual long-lasting peace between Israel and the Palestinians. If the answer is yes, then I think there's only one solution at this point, and that's annexation. Turning all of the region into one territory under the banner of the United States. Now you may think that's crazy. Oh, well that would be unprecedented, as though unprecedented shit doesn't happen on a regular basis. All that is required is the will to do it. I think that the majority of the population of Israel and Palestine would say yes to such a proposal, because then it would mean an end to the suffering, the war, and the conflict, and allow people to live in one contiguous territory overseas, which would be guaranteed by the United States military, in which people would have the right to express themselves, defend themselves, etc. I would think that that would be something that the average person could get behind. Also increasing the prestige and economic output of the United States in the process. There is a lot of energy resources there. There's a huge amount of tourism. And it would allow the United States, through its civic system, to crack down, for example, on the exacerbated problem of settlements in the West Bank, of attacks on Christian tourists, etc., by the Orthodox Jews that predominate in Jerusalem. That's happened before, xenophobic attacks. It would allow us to completely crush Hamas. Once it's your territory, it should be easy. It would be counterterrorism operations would sweep them aside pretty quickly. There is a historical reason why the United States, in my opinion, should do this, and there's also a modern civic reason. The modern civic reason is that there's no other option. The Israelis and the Palestinians will be at each other's throats for the rest of time until some greater power comes in to control the situation. Also, we've bought and paid for that land 10 times over through foreign aid, propping up Israel over and over, propping up Palestine with limitless amounts of food aid and other goods, medical aid, etc. We have a situation now where you have an abomination of desolation, to use the biblical context, in this region. In parts of it, it's been shattered into non-existence. We have the ability to stabilize the situation. Now, what's the historical precedent? Look at the history of Judea/Israel/Palestine/whatever terminology that region happens to have at any given time. When is it relatively peaceful? When a larger power has subjugated it, and no other time. When there's any sort of intrigue within the region, when there's a contesting of who owns the land, when there's no strong central power controlling it, as there is currently. You've got the two de facto states, you have constant civil war, and you have hostages, and terrorism, and bombings, and things like that. Was that happening when this region was under the domination of Rome? You did have a civil war. It was suppressed at Masada and elsewhere, and things went back to being relatively peaceful. Of course, there's plenty of localized corruption under the Roman system with their governor there. But other than that, generally speaking, people went about their business. Under the Byzantine Empire, later the Ottomans. Under the Ottomans, the region was relatively peaceful. There were still problems. There's always going to be some degree of ethnic violence, but where in the world do you not have that? Anywhere where you have a civic construct in which multiple groups of people coexist, they don't always coexist peaceably. You have ethnic violence in, for instance, Rwanda. You've had this in India and Pakistan. You have it in Russia, certainly under the Soviets. You've had it in Afghanistan. You've had it in parts of Europe. You have it in fucking Ireland. That's over the religious question. Are we going to be part of the Church of England, or are we good Catholics? Well, let's throw bombs at each other and blow up each other's cars and shit like that. Happens all the time, even in first world developed nations. If you want lasting peace there, the only thing that I can see is annexation. By the way, the State of Israel's creation, do you know why that happened? I mean, the real down-to-earth reason why Israel exists in its current civic form, which is not even given its blessing by many Orthodox Jews because they interpret their scriptures saying, hey, this state's not supposed to exist. We're currently in exile because of our sins against God. We're not supposed to have a Jewish nation right now. We're supposed to seek refuge in other nations and be a diaspora. Do you know why Israel exists in its current form? Do you want to know the secret? Balfour Declaration and all these things? It was because of the firebombing of industrial centers in World War II. And for no other reason. And that and appeasing Nazi scientists to get them to work with the Western world against the Soviets. And for no other reason. Those two reasons are the only reason why. Paperclip, Operation Paperclip, and the firebombing of places like Dresden. The Germans set up a shit ton of concentration camps where Jews and atheists and homosexuals and the asocial, which sort of basically are dissident gypsies, Jehovah's Witnesses, and other groups, were taken in alongside regular prisoners, including German ones, and they were put to work, mining gravel, cutting down trees, etc., etc. Work camps and death camps at the same time. What happened is that the British decided that the way to really sever the jugular vein of the Nazis was to go after the industrial centers. Well, places that pack food, the places that ship fuel, we'll bomb it to shit. We'll bomb the railroads, we'll bomb the factories, we'll firebomb the civilian centers too, killing more people even than the atom bombs did in Japan. In the process, we'll just rip them to shreds. And they proceeded to do so once they had the air superiority necessary to pull it off. Inadvertently, they caused massive shortages of fuel and food and medicine in Nazi Germany. Now, of course, behind enemy lines, you've got hundreds of thousands of people at any given time in these concentration camps. A total population would have been upwards of 1 million at any given time towards the end. You've also got, you have the Commissar order, so you're not taking Eastern Europeans and Russians into the fold. They just get shot in the battlefield. But there are a bunch of people there. Well, people generally need to eat. And when they get malnourished and typhus breaks out, they start dropping like flies, and then the bodies are immolated. The British, when they wandered into these camps, realized belatedly that they contributed to the Holocaust. And so they said, shit, that's not going to go over well with the people here in Britain at large or with our allies. We need to do something about this right quick. And they said, well, most of these people in the camps are Jewish. We'll make a Jewish homeland. Never again, and all these things. Effectively taking up a policy that was designed by the Nazis themselves to export the diaspora back to Judea, to the Middle East, and bootstrapping it. Oh, I wonder why they did that. They effectively, much like the United States absorbed a bunch of Nazi scientists to build NASA, the British absorbed a bunch of Nazi ideology in order to wash its hands of the iniquity of having killed hundreds of thousands of people inadvertently. They realized, again, belatedly, that they had contributed to that. And that's why Israel was born. Anyway, if you want peace there, it's not going to be a standalone state. Because there's never been peace when it's been a standalone state at all. It is always adversarial with the other tribal groups within the region. We can see the entire Levant as a checkerboard of different tribes with different customs. You've got the Alawite, you've got Shia and Sunni Islamists, you've got the Yazidi, you've got all sorts of people around the area, and they don't traditionally get along with one another. You need a very strong central empirical power in order to calm things down. So I suggest we just annex it. We've already bought and sold the land 10 times over. We have a reason to do so. Many of the people in the region would probably smile upon the concept. I think that we should annex it into a U.S. territory. I'm being serious when I suggest this, by the way. What other methodology can you see that would actually bring peace to the region? And if we've already sent hundreds of billions of collective, well, technically trillions of dollars to the region, haven't we already purchased every square hectare of land there? Haven't we bought and sold it several times over? Also, we remove a rogue nuclear state from the grand chessboard of the world, calming tensions on that end too. And nobody really would care if we took it over as a territory. What's the East Bloc going to do? Israel's already squarely in the Western fold. They wouldn't care. Well, the Western Europe, they might complain about it. What are they going to do? Go to war with the United States? We have the ability to annex them as a territory with the cause of restoring order and saying, look, now we're the empire now. We're the big boys. We could assert ourselves, not under current U.S. leadership, but at some point in the future, it may be necessary. If a major war breaks out in that region, the United States might have to get materially involved in order to quell unrest to stop a nuclear war from happening. Well, why not just cut the head off the snake now and just take it over? I think that that's a good idea for all. That's about all. Peace out.